What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Howard Bender. Welcome to a brand new show called 5 on 5. That's right. What we're doing here is I'm taking all the analysts from Fantasy Alarm. I'm putting them on the hot seat. They've done their Meet the Families. Now it's time to get down and dirty, and now it's time to talk business. I've got 5 topics, and our guest each day has 5 minutes to converse with me about it. They can either give me a 5-minute diatribe as to why their beliefs are the way it is, or they've got 5 minutes to convince me to change my mind if I'm on the opposite run there. So, but again, only 5 minutes. We're going to keep these videos under a half an hour. With me, of course, today, the always cheerful, the always smiling Adam Ronis. Adam, how are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Obviously going through tough times right now, but here at Fantasy Alarm, we're here to entertain people, uplift their spirits in this tough time, continue to talk sports. So hopefully everyone is hanging in there and we'll get through this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all these videos, a little bit of business, a little bit of pleasure. We're trying to mix it all up there. So I've got a stopwatch here on my phone. I will be keeping the time. I will completely cut you off if you go over the time limit. I will shush. I'll reach over to the camera and I'll be like, shh.
All right. I'll be ready. I'll do my best to get it in within 5 minutes, which I usually don't do. I'm not, it takes me way more than 5 minutes, but we'll figure this out.
Oh yeah. See, not me, man. Not me. Not me. Wife's lucky if she gets 30 seconds out of me. And that includes the foreplay.
Or a woman. Or maybe it's good for you. Go for it.
Yeah, sometimes quick and painless. That's how we like it. All right, so here we go. Ready? I'm going to start the clock after I give you our first topic, which will be favorite MLB players benefiting from the delayed start, not named Mike Clevinger. I get it. You love him. We love him. We share that Mike Clevinger love, but there are other players, on the other hand, who are benefiting it. Let me tell you you tell me who your favorite ones are now.
Yeah, by the way, with Clevinger, I was taking him pretty high even with the injury, so really didn't move up that much for me. But Jesus Luzardo is definitely one of them. I was actually surprised watching February drafts in the high-stakes arena how high he was going. I didn't understand it. I know the A's came out and said he's not on an innings limit. We know that's crap that he was going to be on one. So the way I looked at it, I'm like, why are people taking him in the 8th, 9th round if he's only going to throw maybe 120 innings? You know, he hasn't even pitched more than 5 innings in any minor league game. Last year, he only threw about 55 innings. But now with the shortened season, you know, it could be 100 games. The A's are going to be in contention. So he might throw, as many innings as some of the top guys, or at least not that far off. And I could see a situation where he goes 3-4 innings in his first few starts, but I think he gets a big boost, and you could put him, top 20, top 25. His stuff is that good. He was throwing 98 in the spring, struck out 13 and 8 in the third. So there's no doubt about the stuff there. James Paxton's another one who gets a big boost. I just never am a guy who drafts him because I know he's going to spend time on the injured list. I think the max in his career is like 160 innings. But with the shortened season, he already had the injury. He should be good to go. He's on a really good Yankees team. And I expect the whip to improve on what it was last year. Someone I haven't really seen anyone say, Byron Buxton. He was dealing with a shoulder injury. He was just starting to hit a little bit. Now this extended time should give him ample time to be ready. And I thought he was very good last year before he got hurt. And yes, injuries are always a factor with him. But that's a great Twins lineup. Even at the bottom of the lineup, if you prorate his numbers, what he was doing last year, he was on pace for a really good year. I also think Michael Conforto benefits because he was going to start the year on the injured list. He's a big-time power hitter, so he'll be fine. And Eugenio Suarez, I mean, that was a guy that was way down the draft boards. He had 49 home runs last year. People forget. It's a great ballpark, excellent Reds lineup. I like what they did in the offseason. And Julio Urias from the Dodgers, obviously. He's never thrown more than 100 innings in a season, but it's a great Dodgers team. They really don't have to watch him now, and especially in a shortened season. The Dodgers are not – I don't think they're going to play around as much as they have in recent years, and they'll be able to let him fly. I mean, say they play 100 games, then they can't really mess around because you get that cold streak during a season, it could cost you a playoff spot. So, obviously, it's a lot of the injured guys. I'm not bringing up Aaron Judge and Carlos Stanton. Yeah, they move up, but not substantially for me. I mean, both guys have had issues staying healthy the last few years. So, yeah, do they move up from what they were before? Yeah. but those are kind of obvious. But AJ Puck might be another one because he was a guy that was really rising up draft boards, then had the shoulder issue. Obviously, it's going to be tough to kind of get updates, but you feel more comfortable taking him late in the drafts. And I haven't really seen his ADP rise. So, a lot of it is really the injured guys and then pitchers that potentially are on innings limits, where now the disparity between the top pitchers and those guys on the innings limits, they're not going to be as much.
You had me at Luzardo. You had me with Paxton, although he's a guy who I don't often end up drafting much either. Urias, I think, is a phenomenal call there. I'm still leery on the Byron Buxton. Maybe it's just because I've been burned so many times. But, Adam, what makes you think that Buxton will start up? Let's say they start the season in July. What makes you think he's not on the IL by August?
Yeah, well, that's always a possibility with him. There's no question about it. But the price tag is not as high as it was last year. There were some leagues he was going 7th, 8th round. You can get him anywhere from depending on your league, rounds 10 to 12. Those are the rounds that you want to take a shot, especially if you build a good, stable base early on. That's where you kind of swing for the fences. And, all right, if Buxton doesn't work out or he gets hurt, it's not going to crush you in the 10th, 11th, 12th round. You can get away with it. You'll be able to replace him. But, he's a guy that can go 20-20. There's no doubt in my mind. And usually guys hitting at the bottom of the order we don't like. But just go look at what he did last year in hitting 9th most of the time, 8th in that Twins lineup. They are so good. One of the best offenses in baseball. He gets on base. Look at the guys hitting behind him with Max Kepler, Jorge Polanco, Nelson Cruz, Donaldson. There'll be plenty of opportunities for those counting stats to be way better than most players that hit at the bottom of the lineup.
So you're in on Buxton. How high do you take him?
I took him, I think in Tout Wars, I took him around 10 or 11, and that was obviously first week of March. But that's because I needed stolen bases. I felt that was a little light, and I figured he can get me at least 20, potentially more. Obviously, prorate that now with whatever the season's going to be. But I really took him. That was a roster composition pick because I needed stolen bases, and I felt like he was a good fit for the team at the time. And, that's usually how I approach it is what do I need at the time? And on that roster, I needed the stolen bases, so I thought Bucks.
That's my buzzer. That's as best I got. What do I go? Next topic here, Adam Ronis. Is best ball just lazy man's fantasy sports, or is there merit to it?
I don't think it's lazy. I think a lot of people love to draft. That's the biggest excitement for people is draft day. The problem is most people can't do 10, 15, 20 drafts. I know a lot of people in the industry like you and me probably do that, but this is our full-time gig. But people who have kids, families, they just can't do the waivers for 10 leagues. They just don't have the time. So a way to nullify that is doing some best ball drafts because all you have to do is draft your team and that's it. Now, there is a major appeal for me in setting your lineup. Those are making the decisions, especially in fantasy football. If you have a good team and you have depth, you have to make difficult decisions. And we all agonize over it. Go back on Monday. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have left him in. I took him out. That's part of it. There's trades. There's waiver wire pickups. You just can't have a perfect draft. I don't care who you are. You can go look at like the best teams that win high stakes leagues. Their team is going to be different from the team they drafted. They went to the waiver wire and made pickups. It's very rare that you just absolutely nail every pick of a draft. There was a league a couple years ago that I did didn't nail every pick, but a lot of them hit. That's rare. It's just not going to happen. I would never expect that to happen the following year. A lot of things worked out where you were in the draft. You got lucky. Maybe a player you drafted in round 9. Like there was a year, Alvin Kamara's rookie year. I had him like round 9 or 10. I took him over Adrian Peterson because I wasn't buying him in the Saints. And that worked out well. But I like best ball drafts because for me, it's preparation to start the year. I look at it, instead of doing mock drafts, I'll put 10, 20 bucks down, do a best ball draft. And if you just cash a couple, you're going to make a profit. So for me, it's not even the money part. Yeah, I would wish I could win all of them and profit. But for me, it's really prepping for the year and figuring out the player pool, see where guys go. Now, if you told me you only have X amount of your budget, this is your budget for the year, you can only do 5 drafts, I don't know if I would do a best ball draft. I would invest in redraft because I like the whole aspect of trading, waiver wire. The draft is just one piece of the puzzle. And what if you have a terrible draft? That's it. Now you're done after 2 or 3 weeks. 3-year guys get hurt. Both your quarterbacks get hurt. Like, where's the fun in that? So, but I like doing it though, because I think it really helps prepare you for the season. I don't think it's lazy. And I think the people who do it also do play a lot of redraft leagues. I think they use it like the way I do for prep. I don't think I can't imagine there's people who only do best ball and then don't do anything else for redraft. I think it's preparing for the season.
So you're saying it's more like instead of mock drafting, you're doing a best ball draft in order to see how your season's going to go. But isn't there a different strategy when you're drafting best ball as opposed to drafting in seasonal? Best ball football, you can kind of wait on those wide receivers because you're able to see who, you don't have to choose who's going to hit each week. You can just kind of throw some darts at some secondary guys. And in a seasonal draft, though, you might need that elite wideout.
Yeah, I think the strategy is a little bit different. Obviously, there's some players that become more appealing. I mean, Deshaun Jackson is a prime example from years past. You just never know what his week is going to be. We know there's going to be, when he's healthy, there's going to be weeks where he goes 6 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. And a lot of people who have him in redraft leagues probably have him on the bench quite often. In the best ball, you don't have to worry about that. So it does change a little bit, but I still will treat several of them as if it's a season that's playing out and just kind of get an idea of where players are going. How do I want to build my teams? How does my team look picking from 10? How does my team look picking from 3? Depending on the mock drafts, obviously the mock draft army is great because everyone stays in there. But if you're just using other places where people are in there for the first 4 rounds and leave, you're really not getting anything from it.
True or false, you once said that people who play best ball football are also a bunch of chickens because they're too afraid to set their own lineup and make their own decision.
False. I never said that.
Oh, that was
sounds like something you said.
Yeah, it probably is something that I said. Absolutely. So you're okay. Best ball, baseball or football? What do you prefer?
Football. I think baseball, it's really like, I don't do a lot of points leagues anymore. I used to, and I love them. I just haven't done as much. We obviously did one on RT Sports, which I had never done before for Roto, but it's 10 teams and only 20 rounds. So there's no benches. So with that, like 3 of your pitchers go down, you're kind of screwed. So it's interesting because I was like, how are we doing Roto best ball? That was my first thought when I got it. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I like the concept. I think they probably should expand.
Thank you, Adam. We appreciate that. Next topic. Here we go. Adam Ronis' top 5 bands/artists.
All right. Well, this is going to be all hip hop rap for me because that's pretty much all I listen to. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of narrow-minded when it comes to music. Do I like other genres? Yeah, but I don't regularly listen to them. So I didn't put these in any order. And these are always tough, man, because there's so many guys you like. But one guy that I got to put in there definitely is Nas. Nas was someone who came up at a young age. It was immediately a star. Like anyone who heard him, all the record labels were after him. Like he just had that talent. He had this ability to tell stories. He's very smart. You could tell just from listening to his rhymes. And I kind of still feel like he's a little underrated. Like there used to be like the whole Jay-Z Nas thing, and everyone thinks it's kind of Jay-Z just because Jay-Z's in the spotlight now and famous. I think Nas is a lot better than Jay-Z. Not that I don't like Jay-Z, but I think Nas is the guy. If you haven't seen the Illmatic 20-year anniversary, I believe it was on Showtime. It's a really good special that takes you behind the scenes of Nas. And, he grew up in Queensbridge, tough neighborhood, and he was able to escape and get out. And one of my favorite artists, because I'm into lyrics, storytelling, punchlines, and that's exactly what Nas did. So he's one of my favorites. You said band. Well, this is a group, and it's the Wu-Tang Clan. Yeah. Obviously, it's going to be really difficult to separate them because, Ghostface is one of my favorite, Raekwon the Chef. But what's surprising is no one ever gets this. I always say, guess who my favorite Wu-Tang member is? And no one ever gets it because everyone says, Method Man, Ghostface. It's actually Inspector Deck. I think he is one of the more underrated rappers of the group. He actually has some of the best verses on their classic records. He's on there on Cream, Protect Your Neck. He's got the first verse. So I just love the Wu-Tang. And they obviously had a documentary out recently on Showtime that was really good. If you haven't seen it, I think it's a 4-part series. And just how they came up. And obviously, money and fame kind of created a little bit of a vibe between them as the years went on, but they're definitely one of my favorite groups, and individually, I like pretty much all of them. Also like Big L. I think Big L, maybe a lot of people don't know about him. I think he was destined to be a star. In fact, he got shot in Harlem and died at the age of 24. And Jay-Z was after him hard for Rockefeller Records. And the report was he was going to sign with him the week after he passed away. Like, he was getting set. And his brother had said Big L was holding out because Big L was trying to get a couple of his people to be able to sign with him. And Jay-Z just wanted Big L. But Big L was loyal to his people, and he was trying to negotiate to get them. But Big L's got the punchlines, storyteller. He is just phenomenal. And I really wish we could have seen what he would have evolved to, because I just go back and hear his records all the time, and it's amazing. Like, just his lyrical genius, his punchlines are phenomenal. Like, he's the guy you listen, you go, oh wow, what'd he say? Let me rewind that. So I like Big L. Gangstar, Guru, obviously the rapper there, passed away. He actually passed away, I believe, on my birthday. Another great storyteller from the old school, and DJ Premier, his DJ. So he's always been one of my favorites from the old school. And Papoose is one of my favorites. Papoose, yeah, see, a lot of people don't know him. He's married to Remy Martin, the rapper, who people know from Lean Back with Fat Joe. But he's an independent artist. He actually got signed by Jive Records for $1.5 million, and he never put out a record for them. He's just kind of always wanted to do his own thing. You know, you could see the record labels, you know, try to get you with that hit record for radio. And like, he put out a couple. I'm like, that's not him. You know, he's more of the street rhymes. He tells stories about like hurricanes. He does an obituary piece every year. He just did a freestyle on the coronavirus. Like, he's very intellectual, and he can rhyme about anything. He's very versatile. So he's a guy that I heard. The first time I heard him was on Kool G Rap's record. In
Kool G Raps?
Yeah, I love Kool G Rap. You know who he is?
No, I just know the lingo from New York and what a Cougine is. So, all right.
Kool G Rap is his name.
Oh, Kool G.
Yeah, KOOLG.rap. So
I heard something else that wasn't so nice.
Nah. So that's the first time I heard Papoose, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And then DJ K Slay, who worked at Hot 97, heard his tape and got together with him, and they just put out a bunch of mixtapes. So people would come in my car, like in the 2000s, like, let me guess, we're going to hear Papoose. I'm like, yup, because I just would pump all of Papooses CDs. He would just freestyle over.
We got all five in there, right? Yeah, yep. Papoose was your fifth one. Good job. Look at you. Look at you. Next topic. Here you go. Adam Ronis. Convince me on why I should even think about investing in the Texans wide receivers.
Well, someone has to catch the football, right? I mean, every team that you look at, someone has to have some fantasy value. They do have Deshaun Watson, who obviously is still one of the top quarterbacks. I think he does take a hit in fantasy because DeAndre Hopkins is gone, and that's 150 targets that are out there. Now, I have never been a big Will Fuller fan. I did double-digit drafts last year, and I took him in only one. And it was only because he slipped around, I think, 8 or 9, and he was like my 5th or 6th wide receiver. So I said, you know what? I'll take him here because I'm not really depending on him as a starter. And if he somehow stays healthy, you know, him and Deshaun Watson do have a good rapport. Obviously, injuries were a factor once again, but I actually wrote about him in my latest wide receiver preview, looking at undervalued receivers. And that's the one good thing about doing early drafts. If you jump in a draft now, guys are going to be mispriced a little bit. It's going to take some time for the free agency news that just happened for the price to catch up. Now, I know everyone's immediate reaction to Will Fuller. Oh, I don't want him. He's hurt all the time. And you guys are right. He's missed 20 games over the last 3 years. He's never played more than 14 games in a season. But he averaged 6.5 targets per game last year. If he somehow plays the whole season, he's going to see 110 to 120 targets. And we have seen him put up big games with Watson before. And you're going to get him right now as a wide receiver 3. So, yes, is there risk with him? It's baked in, though. I mean, he is going to be the highest Texans receiver drafted. And Devontae Parker is a prime example of how a lot of people said, I'm done with Devontae Parker after going into last year. And I was one of them. You know, I was a Devontae Parker guy every year.
Me too. Me too.
And last year I said I'm out. And, of course, he has his best year. So the injury things are kind of weird. We've seen it before with players. They're injury prone, and then all of a sudden they have that year where they stay healthy. So I'm not saying Will Fuller's going to be a target of mine, but I think you do have to take him into account in wherever he goes. I think I saw wide receiver 34, and I think he's going to move up. But I would take a shot at him there. You might be able to get him as your wide receiver 4. Kenny Stills obviously is going a lot later. I like Kenny Stills, but he disappointed me last year. I thought he had a real opportunity when they had the injury to Will Fuller, and I just didn't see enough from him. Part of it is the Texans' offensive line. They haven't been good. Part of it is Deshaun Watson. He holds on to the football too long, and he takes a lot of sacks. A lot of times you just look at the sack number, and you go, that's on the offensive line. Sometimes it's on the quarterback. The quarterback knows the offensive line is a deficiency. You got to figure out a way to get rid of the ball. And I know he can run a little bit, so that makes him hold on to the ball a little bit longer, and it results in more sacks. Randall Cobb is the cheapest of the 3 now. I'm a Cowboys fan, so I watch every Cowboys game. Randall Cobb was very good last year. I didn't expect that. He looked really good, and he mentioned something about something that the Cowboys training staff did with him to help improve his hamstrings. I don't know exactly what it was, but that was kind of an issue, I guess, with Green Bay. So you see that sometimes. Players go to new teams and whether it's nutrition, training staff. But Cobb stayed healthy and he was good. He's going to be likely the slot receiver. We'll see. The Texans might draft a wide receiver. This is a class full of depth. But I would take a shot on the Texans wide receivers because, again, they're really not priced right now. If you are anti-Will Fuller, I completely understand. You probably have been burned over the last few years and you think it's going to happen again. But Stills and Cobb are very cheap. They're going outside the top 50 wide receivers right now. So if you take them and you gamble on them and it doesn't work, obviously in a redraft league, it's easy to move on. You're not investing a high price.
Let's say, for example, the Texans do go out and get a wide receiver. They get a decent one, like a top 10 wideout in the draft. I mean, top 10 is even, I'm thinking maybe more like top 5 or 6. If they do that, how bullish are you on Will Fuller then? Because somebody else is going to be drawing some coverage away. What's the highest you would take Will Fuller?
Probably right around wide receiver 30 would probably be the highest.
Okay.
And there's definitely risk with that. So I think it also depends on how your team looks. Did you take some risk early on with some injury-prone players? If that's the case, you don't want to put Will Fuller on your team. If you have stability and maybe you add the 1 pick or a top 3 pick and you have that solid 3-down back, and then maybe you came back with a top 6 receiver that has a good track record, if you have a good stability early on, then you can afford to take the risk with Will Fuller. If you already took some risk with some injury-prone players already, then maybe Will Fuller's not a good idea for your roster. And, I know we talk about that a lot more with fantasy baseball, but I think you do have to look at that in fantasy football too. And, of course, anyone who steps on the football field is an injury risk. Even if a guy has stayed healthy for 3 straight years, it's a very physical.
Final topic. Here we go. I don't know if you really convinced me all that much there. Especially we didn't even get to the talk about PPR versus standard for Will Fuller. But again, 5 topics, 5 minutes, no more than that. Perhaps maybe Adam and I will have a discussion at another time on that. Last topic. Here we go. Adam, you turned me on to a show called Impractical Jokers. I am 100% hooked. I am in the middle of season 3 right now. There are a lot of episodes to binge watch. I pee my pants on a regular basis. You and I have differing opinions as to who the best Impractical Joker is. I say Sal. You say Joe. I need convincing. Why is Joe better than Sal?
I don't even think this is close, man. Joe is so smooth. I always judge comedians when I'm at comedy clubs by how do they react when someone from the crowd says something wise. Because, you can go up there and have your prepared material. How you react on the spot, quick, instantaneous, that's how I judge someone. And Joe is so smooth. He gets through everything. He barely laughs. In fact, when he messes up or they get him to laugh, they're stunned. They're like, what? Joe hardly loses. He's very bold. He does whatever they say most of the time. The only thing they really get him is something with his wife or marriage. That's where he's a little lax. But Joe pretty much does everything. And he just comes up with stuff on the spot instantly. Sal laughs so easily, man. He's so easy to fluster. He's not as smooth. I've seen instances But compared to Joe, there's no way. They already know, and Sal knows going into some of these punishments, he's going to lose. He just laughs too easily. He's too timid to do some of them. You could see the trepidation. And again, I like all of them. But Joe is just, I just kind of relate to Joe because I would be like Joe. I would do almost anything. And Sal, I feel like he backs down and he just laughs too much. You could see it. Joe is able to keep his composure and he doesn't give it away. I feel like Joe does. Sal does.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if Sal and there's obviously, but they gang up on each other in different ways. Like, I mean, let's face it, poor Sal, obvious mama's boy. And they bring his mom and his sister into a number of these things. And that's a respect thing. You have to understand that Sal is a guy who respects not just women, but especially the women in his family, the women in his life. Like Joe, he'll sell everybody out, even with the marriage. I saw him do an episode where they made him put the ring back on and go around and do some speed dating stuff. He had no shame there.
Yeah, and I love that. That's how it should be. All out to win, man. That is the goal. That's what we do here, right? It's all about winning. It doesn't matter at any cost. And that's why I love Joe. He does not want to lose, and I relate to that. And again, he is just so smooth with the stories he comes up with on the spot. Like, I'm amazed sometimes. We sit here, and I'm guilty of this. I sit there and watch, and I go, I could do that. But you don't know until the spotlight's on you. And remember, they don't know what's they're being told to do. It's all spontaneous on the spot. They just hear the earpiece and in the mic, and they're telling you, all right, this is what you have to do. And you have no idea. And you have to react instantly to do it. And you also oftentimes have to come up with a story to sell it to the person that you're interacting with, because they do a lot of stuff with fans and just regular people on the street. And Joe is just so smooth. The things that he comes up with, the stories, I'm like, wow. Whereas I feel like Sal is not as smooth, and he just laughs too much, man. Like, just, And
I think you're thinking of Murr. Murr laughs all the time.
Nah. Sal does. Maybe you need to get through more as it goes along. But yeah, and I feel like Sal loses the most too.
He loses a good amount, but
yeah.
It's kind of on the even front there. Give me best Joe moment. Highlight some Joe moments for me.
Oh, well, I just sent you, I thought the best ultimate punishment. You haven't seen it yet. It was recently. They were in a park, and this also was spontaneous. So all right, you're going to watch it. So
go ahead, spoil it for me.
Right, I'm not going to spoil the whole thing, but Joe, the punishment was Joe. He was in a park. They said the punishment is you have to find someone to put suntan lotion on you. And he was sitting there with no shirt on. Then they're taping. This fan came up and said, hey, man, I'm a big fan. Where are the rest of the guys? And he goes, oh, they're not here. This is my day off. I'm just chilling in the park. And then he's like, no, for real? He's like, yeah. And the guy goes, let me see. Do you have an earpiece in? Joe quickly took it off, hit it, and goes, no, I don't. And then he said, Joe got him to look the other way. He put the earpiece back in. So they basically pivoted the ultimate punishment on the spot. They're like, all right, now you have to get this guy to put the lotion on you. And what happens is mind-boggling. I was dying laughing. And I know you were going to watch it as soon as we're done. But to me, that was one of the most funniest punishments ever. And what they tell Joe, this is how the punishment ends. You're going to be like, oh, my goodness. That was one of the best. But Joe, you didn't see this one. They do costumes. They each have to go into this, like they're...
And that's all the time we've got for today. I don't even know if it's possible to spoil that show for me. You can probably tell me everything that happens, and I'll probably still laugh as hard.
You would, but I don't want to spoil that one because just what happens, I know you're going to die laughing. Your mouth's going to be, you're like, I cannot believe this.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it for sure. That's going to do it for us here today. That's 5 on 5. Stay tuned for so many more episodes of this as we take it through the Fantasy Alarm family. For Adam Ronis, we're going to say a big thank you to Matt Sells, our producer. Guys, follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Alarm. Subscribe to our YouTube page, Fantasy Alarm, and of course our Facebook page, fantasyalarm.com. You don't want to miss any minute of it here. Lots more videos coming out. Meet the families, 5-on-5s, getting buzzed, anything you can possibly imagine. We're going to start bringing it to you. What else are we going to do? Sports? Nah, brah. That's going to do it for Adam. I'm Howard Benner. This has been Fantasy Alarm TV. We'll catch you next time.